All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Star Trek Groundskeepers. Now, this is going to be completely different from my other Star Trek Adventure streams in that the players are all Undine, perhaps better known as Species 8472. They're part of the faction that we saw in Season 5, Episode 4 of Voyager, and they are embarking on a 2-year mission into the Delta Quadrant. Now, timeline-wise, it is worth saying that we're in the same quote-unquote canon as my Fenrir and Mata Hari games. You don't need to have watched either of those games to enjoy this one, but you're probably going to catch a few references and subtle nods if you do. You can catch the VODs, not just for Fenrir and Mata Hari, but for Groundskeepers as well, on my YouTube and most of the popular podcast solutions. And what I would say is, again, if you have tuned in my streams before, as you can see, we have a very small number of players today, but that is by design. So let's just very quickly have each of my players introduce themselves.
I'll go first. I'm John. You can see me at Chubby Kobold Gaming. And I'm looking forward to playing this game. I play a character named Tabris, who is a human file in the sense that he just loves human culture, and it should play out pretty interestingly in game.
And I'm Brian, and I'm playing Rez, who is a similarly sort of a speciephile in that he enjoys the idea of other species, and who is mostly into the tech and science side of that.
Alrighty, and with that, let's go ahead and run the intro that GM Josh so lovely prepared for us. All right, and welcome back. So, something I like doing with all my Star Trek Adventures games, even when I'm not playing a Starfleet crew, is I like having the players do an opening log. And today, Mr. Rez, if you would be so kind.
Rez personal log, cycle 12 Omega 9.2, or rather, stardate 89001.2 if we're doing this, and we are doing it. We're finally doing it. Cycles of training and preparation have finally brought me to the cusp of my dream assignment: unfettered exploration of non-fluidic space. I've done my time out here in the cold nothing. I served as a reconnaissance post, pretended to be a merchant, then commanded the Zanarkand Dune on our single, ill-fated mission. And finally, I've been summoned to the home structure by Boothby to receive official orders and a ship. I'm joined by Tabris, and after the disaster with my last ship, I don't blame the old man for pairing me with a partner. As the Voths say, 2 brains gives double the options, and Tabris was instrumental in our success during our encounter with the Brovane. I know I can work well with she. She? Him? Damn, this language is limited. I can't think of another individual I'd rather share a ship with. They're quick-witted, cunning, swift to action, intelligent, and most importantly, just as curious as I about these other species. How can there be so many of them? Why are all of them so different? And how did this universe come to be so empty? These are just a few of the questions we'll proudly be seeking answers to as the first groundskeeper ship sent out into the void. Well, the first ship tasked with exploration. The Starfleet species has a saying: imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And so we pay these humans, humans, not Starfleet species. We pay them a most sincere compliment. We do as they did and send ourselves out to boldly go, to learn and explore, and perhaps investigate the most unique Starfleet, an organization, not a race, value of trying diplomacy before all else, and using violence only as a last resort. Not an easy thing when all we see are alien threats, but I believe we're better served seeking allies in knowledge than enemies in ignorance. Let's just hope this first mission proves me right.
Alrighty. So we are going to sort of imagine that the camera, quote unquote, starts in fluidic space. And fluidic space is a turbulent sort of area where literally instead of the emptiness, the vacuum of space, what we have instead is literal fluid. Now you're seeing lots of greens and oranges sort of swirling together and maybe mixing into almost like a brownish color. But it is very much a fluid dynamic environment. And we sort of shift to the left a little bit, and appearing on the left side of the screen is a structure. Now, this structure is maybe about the size of a Borg cube. So it's literally a kilometer or kilometer from top to bottom. And the structure is two cylinders that have been sort of separated by a table or some form of divider in the middle. And coming off of the various parts of the cylinders are what are essentially docking bays. There are 8472 ships docked here, and one of them is the player's vessel. They just don't know it yet. So we see this sort of external view, and we zoom in towards one of the windows of the structure, and we're almost met with a totally different place, a totally different reality. Compared with the outside sort of turbulence and fluid nature, inside it's filled with air. Inside it is filled with all manner of individuals from varying species and races. And the key thing to note is that as we look around the scene, we don't actually see any Undine or any species 8472 in their natural form. Instead, we're seeing Klingons, we're seeing Caitians, we're seeing humans, we're seeing Vulcans, Trill, the list goes on. And all of them are more or less living and working in an environment that would be not at all dissimilar to an actual Starfleet starbase. And it is at this that we finally pan sort of over a promenade outlooking into fluidic space that we see Tabris and Rez, both of you hanging out near the window. Now, you're waiting for Boothby to meet you here, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to describe your characters and do a little bit of role play. So let's start with you, John. Tell us a little bit about Tabris.
So Tabris is standing there in his Sith Lord pose, standing, looking out the window with his hands behind his back. But one thing that you'll notice is in his hands, he has a metallic Knight Rider lunchbox that he has packed some of his belongings into to take with him on this trip. And he has just got this huge smile on his face, just looking out and looking at all the different ships and kind of going through his head. No, it's that one. No, it's that one. No, it's that one. And he's kind of bouncing a little bit, very, very eager.
All right, and what about Rez?
Rez, on the other hand, is dressed very formally. He's wearing what appears to be a off-brand dress Starfleet uniform. He's very easy, tall, broad, but sort of relaxed. Just looking out the window, appreciating the view. Trying not to stress what ship it is. They're all good. Any ship would be good. He's very calm, I think is the.
And Tabris is wearing an original series uniform, and he has molded himself to look a lot like Chekhov.
Rez is just nondescript human.
So Rez, which one? Which one do you think it is?
Well, I presume
I hope it's that one.
Well, I see nothing that recommends that one above all the others. But hey, if that's what you're hoping for, bud, I hope you get it.
Well, that one has a scratch. You see the scratch?
I mean, you know that the ship will heal that shortly, right?
Yeah, but it came injured. I mean, you don't want a ship that's already injured.
I thought that was the one you were pointing at to have. So you don't want the injured one.
No, I don't want the scratch. I want that one.
Ah, well.
Or, well, it could be that one, but I'm just excited. This is going to be so much fun.
You know what? I'm pretty pleased myself. This is going to be a great mission. I think we're going to make some real progress.
Who do you think we're going to meet? Who do you think we're going to talk to before we head out?
Wow. I mean, my summon said we were talking to Boothby. Who did your summon say you were talking to?
I was just told to meet you here and follow you.
Huh. I was told we were partners, so I don't know why I got more information than you did. That's a very odd.
It's okay. I mean, yeah, I don't mind.
Well, I appreciate that. I hope you don't think I was trying to hide it from you.
No, not at all. Not. You know what? He opens up his lunchbox and reaches in and pulls out some papers. It looks like he has taken like the normal forms of communication that they get and has printed them off on old style dot matrix printer paper. And he looks at it and he's just like, oh, yeah, I missed it. It says it right here. He folds it back up, puts it back in the lunchbox.
Are you going to have all our orders in that box?
Oh, no, just don't worry about it. I'll have plenty of other orders in my office.
Oh, of course, yes. You're off. Are you? We're having offices. Is that a thing?
Well, rooms,
that we're doing?
Offices, quarters. That's it, quarters.
Ah, yes, quarters. Yeah. So who's going to have the other half of the ship if with the two? Oh no, sorry, quarters. That's yeah. English is weird.
Yeah, I couldn't understand it either. I mean, you know how many quarters were in one of the original starships? I mean, that would make a whole lot of holes.
I did think that was odd. It took me a very long time to understand those logs.
Yep. Oh, do we want to call it sick bay or med bay? I've heard both.
I mean, I would, I would go with med bay. I think that's probably the. I hope not. Hope we won't be sick. It'll only be injuries.
That's a perfectly good reason to call it med bay. All right.
I mean, I've never been sick. Have you?
No, now that you say it, I haven't.
It sounds pretty terrible. I don't want that at all.
No.
And at that, there is a very loud throat clearing behind you, and you turn to look, and being an Undine, you actually sense that he's there once he's announced his presence, but you turn around, and what we see waiting for you is the old groundskeeper of Starfleet Academy, quote-unquote Boothby. Now, Boothby here is a little bit important because he is the head of the groundskeepers faction. And if you don't know what Boothby sort of is all about, I'd recommend going to watch that Voyager episode I mentioned in the beginning. But all you really need to know is that he's a very old-looking gentleman, gray hair, very stern-looking face with lines, wearing a gardener's outfit. And he just sort of looks at each of you, sort of puts a hand to his chin, inspects you, Tabris, inspects you, Rez, and says, well, seem to be quite eager for your journey. Tell me, what sort of mission do you think you all are going on?
We're exploring non-fluidic space, right? Maybe I'll get to see a star up close.
And you, looking at Tabris.
Oh yeah, I mean, being able to meet new civilizations, new people, and it would be amazing if we ran into some like Starfleet people and we could talk to them. And he goes on for about 5 minutes of just a rambling stream of conscious thought.
Eventually, Boothby does cut him off and says, "That's enough, son. I get the idea." Well, the good news is that that's exactly the kind of mission you're going on. The incident with the Shan proved that we need allies outside of fluidic space. that we need connections, not just to the beings of fluidic space, but to those of the greater galaxy. And looking at your records, looking at your past records, I believe you two will be able to facilitate that. To that end, I've had this prepared. And he sort of motions for you all to look out the window. And right as you do, a ship flies past it. And it's very close to the window, like almost you could reach out and touch it, kind of a thing. And it is literally your vessel, the GV Troust. And he says, "Ain't she pretty? She's one of the new Cherix classes. I got you the best I could."
Oh, that's amazing. That's even better. Oh, Rez, that's even better than the one I thought I was going to get.
Sorry, I don't know what to say. This is great.
Well, let me just say there is a caveat to giving you this kind of ship. Don't go blowing up planets with it. Unless you have to, in which case, send me a report. But generally, don't go in with the attitude of blowing up a planet.
Right. Diplomacy first, violence last. Gotcha.
Oh, there is one other thing. I took the liberty of giving her a personality. I've only interacted with it a little bit, but I think she'll fit in fine with you two.
Oh, excellent. Do you hear that, Tabris? That means we'll both get to go down to away missions.
Oh, going on away missions, I mean, that's one thing that they always used to argue about. And there was these rules around who could go down and if they needed a security officer. Oh, I'm a security officer. That's pretty cool.
Yep. It is. That's excellent.
And Boothby just sort of looks at the two of you, and his normally stern face actually does crack a smile, or at least a small smirk, and he says, "I'm sure you two will get along fine, but did you have any questions for me about your mission, where you're going, anything of that nature before I let you run wild on your ship?"
Tabris just turns to look at Rez.
Are we going to be running into any Starfleet ships? And if we do, well, what's protocol there?
Well, my understanding is that there are some Starfleet vessels in the Delta Quadrant, but they're definitely not as commonplace as they would be in the Alpha and Beta. So if you run into them, say hi. Mention that we're part of the faction that has a treaty with them. Again, don't go blowing up any of their planets.
Right. Diplomacy first, violence last. Gotcha.
Yes, sir. And Tabris like gives him a salute, but is carrying the lunchbox on his thumb, and it smacks him, and it pops open, and everything spills out, and Tabris starts gathering everything up again.
And I think Boothby actually like breaks character for a moment and actually laughs. And it's one of those genuine like old man laughs that, warms the soul. And he says, "Oh, to be young. But the non-fluidic space is now your oyster. Go forth and make me proud." And he sort of puts a reassuring hand on each of your shoulders, smiles again, then pulls back and sort of walks off the promenade and disappears into the crowd.
Well, Tabris, shall we check out our new ship?
Oh, I'm already there.
Good. Do you know how to get to it?
I was kind of hoping you did.
Great.
To help you out, even as eccentric, perhaps, Undine, you do know that if this is the same as every other Undine ship, all you need to do is just sort of reach out your mind and brush against it, and you will have full control over the ship.
In which case, I do that.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
So you reach out and you touch the ship and you communicate your desire that you want to be aboard. And in a shimmering golden light, you disappear from the promenade and reappear in this space. And I'll show you. You guys are free to move about as you sort of see things, but I did want to describe what everybody is seeing on stream. So, first things first, you all beam into what is essentially an organic-looking corridor that has a transporter pad, or the Undine equivalent thereof, that is sort of recessed into the corridor. If you step out, directly ahead of you is the bridge where each of you have a station, these purple circles. There is a ramp that leads up to an open space where normally you would greet or beam in diplomats, envoys, things of that nature. And there's also the view screen up here as well. Now, to your immediate left in the corridor, there is what you're guessing to be a brig based on the force field controls that are there. And if you were to go to your extreme left, sort of to the south on this map, you would see that there is main engineering where your transwarp coils are located, where your impulse engines are located, etc., etc. Now, the unique thing about this ship is not just its design, but the way it handles geometry. So looking to your left and the right down the corridor, you see just, a straight shot that sort of ends in a cluster of rooms. But if you actually begin to go up or down one of these corridors, you literally go up or down. So for example, let's take Tabaris, for example. If you proceed down that hallway closest to you, you actually walk up. So you kind of curve up, and it's done so in such a subtle fashion that you don't even notice it. But since we are over here on this side, in Tabaris's corner, we have Sick Bay, or I guess I need to rename it Med Bay.
I was just about to say.
We also have the computer core, we have the cargo bay, and we have the armory. And to the other side of the ship, Rez's quarter, we have the science lab, the guest quarters, a holo suite, and life support. And that's all my explanations. So I'm going to let you guys take it from there as I rename what's on the map.
So Tabaris goes into his quarters and he's putting up like a wall poster of the original Enterprise. He's got like a one of those posters you would have hung up on your wall. He's got one of Spock and he's got one of Captain Kirk.
Meanwhile, Rez will move onto the bridge and start just poking around.
All right. So the bridge, again, is, unique in design, but it is distinctly Undine because there's not really controls per se. Like, there's a seat for you to sit in, but it also sort of recesses into the ground if you were in your normal tripedal form. But when you're a biped, the chair comes up, allows you to sit. But what you notice is, as before, you don't actually have to be in the bridge to control it. You just have to sort of brush against the ship's mind, and it'll do what you tell it.
Excellent. In which case, I reach out for Tabaris and I say, "Are you ready to set course for the Delta Quadrant here, bud?"
Oh yes, of course. I'm almost done. But I mean, you can fly, right?
I am capable of it. Plus, I imagine the ship has some helps there. I mean, not that I would need them. I can fly a ship.
I mean, of course you can. I mean, who can't?
Good at flying a ship. Cool. Hey, ship. Can you, or hey, Troust? Apologies, I didn't mean to just call you ship. I'm just not used to English yet. Set course for the Delta Quadrant.
All right. And appearing alongside you on the bridge, sort of in that upper raised portion, is a unique looking individual. Now, they don't necessarily have a face so much as just a suggestion of one. I'd like to equate it to almost how we see in Spider-Man, like how Spider-Man's mask is, where it's just sort of the suggestion of eyes and maybe some design there. Sort of the same thing going on here. Troust, quote unquote, is a gray sort of colored individual with white eyes and what could be sort of a popped collar that leads down into almost like a vest of some sort and ends in almost like bell bottoms, if you will. But they sort of appear and say, "So, Delta Quadrant, how quick you want to get there?"
Warp 8.5.
Well,
I don't think we do warp until we get to the actual non-fluidic space here, bud. So maybe can't calm it down a little.
All right.
But I mean, take us at speed. So let's get there quick.
Very well. And they turn, and on the view screen, you see that the fluidic space is changing outside. It is shifting and moving quicker and quicker. And you also see that in the forward arrays, a quantum singularity is building. And we're going to do our first roll of the campaign. So the way this works is I need a control and an engineering, and the ship will assist you within engines and engineering. The difficulty here is normally a 3, but because you are within fluidic space, it is only a difficulty of 2.
John, you want to handle the ship, and I'll roll the control engineering?
Sure. And what was the ship helping with? I'm sorry.
Engines engineering.
I do not have a focus.
Engineering. The ship always has a focus.
Very nice. You actually get 1 momentum for your trouble. So the quantum singularity that is building in the forward arrays, it sort of projects out from the ship almost like a torpedo would. And
isn't that 2 momentum?
You're right, 2 momentum. Good catch. But as the quantum singularity fires out and explodes, quote unquote, it tears open a hole into the quote unquote normal reality of the Milky Way. And the Trouse just sort of flies in through this tear, and you emerge into the Delta Quadrant. You're seeing stars, you're seeing a nebula in the background, you're seeing all the sorts of things that you maybe have dreamed of seeing. And it's picturesque, it's beautiful. And Troust, the ship, sort of almost giggles a little bit to themselves and says, so that's what that looks like.
Yep, Troust, welcome to the first day of the rest of our mission. This is gonna be fun.
Tabris pulls out like an old school Polaroid camera and takes 2 pictures and then shakes the pictures for a little while and then puts them into his lunchbox, which is now empty, and he sets it by his station.
And Troust actually turns to you, Tabris, as if to say something, and then their head twitches to the side a little bit and says, okay. 1 moment. And her head keeps twitching a little bit. Okay. I guess this is what you would call good news, bad news?
All right, we'll lead with the bad news so that we can finish with the good news and be on a good note.
Well, I'm not sure if it's actually bad. I'll get to the point. I don't know what they're called. There's a distress call, I believe is what it's called. A distress call is coming in. Nearby, it's located here. And she sort of swipes her hand over the air. And on the view screen, it displays a diagram of the Delta Quadrant. It zooms into where you are. And then it moves just a little bit to the left. And it highlights an area there. And they say, we could be there within 10 minutes if we wanted to be.
Tabris, you want to give the order, buddy?
Yeah, he looks at the ship, so to speak. Says, make it so.
And sure enough, you feel the subtle shift in the ship as its actual engines begin to push against the void of space. And the view screen outside shifts to that of transwarp. So sort of a green and gray swirling vortex around the ship. And as you all are traveling, Troust does play the distress call. Now, the distress call is badly garbled, and you're getting about once every 2 words, but you get the general gist. This species is something called the Krirshi, and that is Krirshi. And if you need to, I can throw it in chat as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But the Krirshi are apparently under attack by a spherical object that is tearing up their defensive ships.
Spherical? It sounds like it might be a Borg sphere. Man, I hate those guys.
Oh, that would be amazing, though. I mean, whew, it's one of the things that endeared us to. It is one of the things that really did endear us to the Federation. Oh, this is amazing. Oh, and he's like bouncing behind the what little bit of a panel he has.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Tyrus, calm down. Let's get there first, and then we'll see what we see. All right.
Should we ready all our weapons?
I mean, you're the tactical officer, so I would
right,
say yes. Let's
I'll
ready
have them.
weapons.
I'll have them ready. I won't shoot yet.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to transition maps here because we have grid-based combat, which I will describe for those who can't see a stream in a moment. All right. So you exit transwarp into a rather interesting system for several reasons. Not only is there a trinary star, aka 3 stars orbiting each other, but there is only a single planet, a very large Jupiter-sized Class M world. And with your sensors, you're already able to tell that there is a rich biosphere there that supports all manner of life. But what's really catching your attention maybe isn't so much the oversized planet and the interesting star arrangement, as it is the Borg in the area. And you don't really even need to have the ship tell you that they're Borg. It's very obvious. There is a sphere, a Borg sphere, that is right in almost the atmosphere of the planet. And it is currently using a cutting beam on a rectangular-shaped, blocky craft that you assume are the Kirshi's defensive ship, or what remains of their fleet anyways. And that's happening near the planet. Away from the planet, what you're seeing is the beginnings of a transwarp conduit exit. And sort of orbiting around the conduit are these torus-shaped Borg craft that are moving materials from point A to point B, maybe doing a little bit of welding, basically constructing the conduit as all of this goes on. What would you guys like to do?
Should we hail the vessel first?
Who, the Krirshi?
Let's split screen them.
Listen, I know that our orders were diplomacy first, violence second, but I feel like we could do some cowboy diplomacy, I think is what they call it, where we endear ourselves to the...
He pushes the button. He's been waiting,
So I need to know, is this the pew pew button or is this the communications button?
Oh, this is the pew pew button.
Okay. All right,
Awesome.
I figured. All right, so this is our first round of Starship Combat, and to anyone listening, we are actually using the revised rules that were included in the Klingon sourcebook. Now, the key distinction here to make is that the rules haven't changed drastically. There's been basically errata applied to the rules, but they are more up to date, including the difficulties and what needs to be rolled. So that's why we're using the Klingon rules over, say, the default Federation ones. But let's break this down. So for you, Tabri, this is going to be a control and a security. And the ship will assist you with a weapons security.
Right,
And I need to know, what are you targeting and with what weapon?
So I guess we should look at the ship real quick and see what kind of weapons we have. All right, let's see.
We've got fluidic anti-proton cannons, fluidic anti-proton array, and biograppler cables.
All right, it looks like a job for the we're going to start with the anti-proton cannons.
Okay. Actually, looking at the sheet, I did not note their range. So the cannons are effective at close range. The arrays are effective at medium range. And at the moment, I believe you are at long range. So for the array, it would be a difficulty of 3. For the cannons, it would be a difficulty of 4. But obviously, the cannons do more damage.
All right, array it is for now. Can we move closer and fire?
I would say you could. And that's sort of the unique way. I'm glad you brought this up. So As you can tell, we have a reduced player count, again by design. And what I'm going to do is, since we only have 2 players, I'm actually going to give each of the players 2 actions on their turn, because normally it's only 1 action. So you can indeed move and then shoot.
All right, we're going to do that.
All right,
Nice.
so you can move anywhere within 6 units for free, no power required. And when you move, you actually do get a roll that helps build momentum. So,
Nice.
if you can roll me a control and a con, and the Troust will assist you with an engines and con.
All right.
Control,
Engines.
con, 2D. And helm operations,
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming.
All right, 1 from the ship. All right, hey, that's 2 free momentum that you didn't have initially. So you're up to 4.
Nice.
But yeah, you
All
are
right.
now within optimal range for your cannons as the Troust almost leaps forward through space towards the Borg sphere.
All right. And now, Tabris is just overly excited. So we're going to be spending 3 momentum.
Okay.
Amazing.
1, 2, 3. And we're firing away.
Alrighty. So yeah, control security, difficulty of 2, assisted by weapon security of the Troust.
And I have shipboard tactical systems. So.
Oh yeah. All right, that is a total of 3 successes. So you get 1 of those momentum right back.
Nice.
So yeah, now we have the interesting mechanic that is unique to your ship. And I'll show it to the stream because it is quite a mouthful. So the sort of unique quality of this weapon is that by default, you have Piercing 1 and Vicious 1. But if you want to amplify that, you can give me Threat. And it sort of doubles each time you add a new quality. So for example, if you want to do Piercing 2, that's 2 threat. If you want to do Piercing 2 and Vicious 2, that's 4 threat. You know, so it kind of doubles each plus, if that makes any sense.
All right. Well, here's 4 threat.
Okay.
All right.
So you're doing, I'm assuming, Vicious 2, Piercing 2?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and roll your cannon damage, and let's see what we get.
All right. And where is that?
Should be on the ship's sheet. If you can't see it, it's probably because well, it would help if I, because it might be getting cut off is what it is.
Oh, there it is. Okay. And do you have a focus for this roll?
No. So this is challenge die roll.
Okay, because when I clicked it, it just said input value, and then it said applicable focus came up. And
It's probably trying to do the attack roll is what it's trying to do.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, when I click the little red box next to the 9, it just...
Yeah, I would just say roll the challenge dice manually.
Okay, so just roll 90-20?
96, but there also should be a macro for you.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Let me double check.
You have to add it. We have to add it from
I'm adding it now. Yep.
Oh, session 1.
Oh, yes. Challenge dice. And how many challenge dice? 9?
9.
Should be 9, yeah. All right, so let's see what we have. We have 3 effects, so you're ignoring 6 resistance.
And I'm also going to give you one of these momentum to re-roll the 3 zeros.
Okay.
Because Tabris is very excited by this whole opportunity. So he is doing his best to do as much as he can.
Okay. So that is a total of 9 plus 8. So that is a total of 17 damage, ignoring 8 resistance, which is a good thing because the Borg sphere is huge. It is a scale 7 vessel, which means 13 minus 7, if I can do math in my head, that is only 6 damage to their hull. But it is enough for a breach. So go ahead and describe the hole you tear in the sphere.
So as the cannons just start to tear into the side of the vessel, you can see it just rips this huge gap in the side, and several drones just go flying off into space. And Tabris just has this huge grin on his face.
Very good. All right, so that is your turn, and
then he's going to use call to action.
Well, it's one of those things where I don't know if quick to action is
quick
fair.
to action. Yeah. Do you want me to replace that with something different?
Yeah, replace that with something else. I think that would break it too easily. I think
I will definitely replace that as we get.
All right, cool. But yeah, it is now the Borg's turn to act, and they definitely see you as the threat now. So they stop lancing the Krirshi vessel with their cutting beam and instead direct it towards your ship. So, you did just give me some threats, so I'm going to give them, let's say, one additional die. Only one. And they don't really need it, but they do succeed. So that is a total of 8, 9, 10, 11 damage to you guys. So what is your resistance? I believe it is 6. Yes, it is 6. So, I said what, 11? So you would only take 5. And again, with both the Matahari and Fenrir games, the blue bar is your shields, and the orange bar is your power. So, this is probably very interesting for many reasons, but the Borg sphere, attacks an 8472 vessel. Like, normally an Undine vessel doesn't have a problem with Borg weapons, but maybe they've learned a few tricks. So as this cutting beam hits the ship, the entire ship rocks for a moment, and you can tell that there's been a breach specifically to the structure. Oh lord, this could get very interesting very quickly. Okay, didn't roll an effect. We're good. So as the entire ship rocks and you hear the distant sound of atmosphere leaving the vessel, the Troust reports they've opened a hull in the port sector of the hull. Just thought you should know.
Well, that won't do it all, will it?
But yeah, it is now Rez's turn.
I don't fire. I open a hailing frequency to tell the Krirshi that this is Co-Captain Rez of the GV Troust. We're here to help. We'll draw them off. If you guys want to go maybe pick off some of those Tauruses and keep them from bringing any more ships into your system.
Okay. You were rolling a control and an engineering, and the ship will assist you with a communications and engineering. Difficulty on this is a 0, so potentially free momentum.
I don't have any focuses, sadly. That's all right.
All right, that's already 2 momentum.
Nice.
And sorry, the ship was?
Communications and engineering.
Sorry, you want me to roll that?
I got it. I already had their sheet pulled up.
Nice. All right. Hey, so with 4 successes, you gain 4 momentum. I believe you're up to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And to sort of cut away from the battle for a moment, appearing on the view screen is an interesting creature, especially for you two, because up to this point, maybe you were expecting a humanoid species or, something that was similar in nature to a humanoid. But in reality, what you see on the view screen is very different. And I will show you what the Krirshi look like. So the Krirshi, as you can now see, are actually a raptor-like entity where they have black scaling and almost midnight umber that kind of goes throughout their entire form. And they're pointed almost like feather-like phalanges that sort of go out from behind their head. They are tipped in almost neon glistening blue. And as you look at them, you see that this bioluminescent feature of them is reflected throughout their form. And they sort of look at you, and you look at them, and their maw opens to reveal sort of that same blue tongue, and they say, "You are not what we expected, but we will gladly take whatever assistance we can against these invaders."
Excellent. Well, we'll hold off the sphere if you want to go harry their builder drones.
We would love to do this. However, we are experiencing a problem with our engine block. They literally carved 3 decks out of it.
Oh. What if I could just... hey, Tabris, do you think we could fling them over there with the biograppler?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you should try that. That sounds great.
All right. Travis, can you tag him with the grappler, and then we'll do a flip and just fling their ship over towards them? What's your weapon range there, Krirshi ship?
We have adequate cannons.
Excellent. All right, well, let's try it.
All right. Definitely not the way I thought this was going to play out, but we're going to roll with it. So let's see. So let's check ranges first and foremost. You are technically within medium range, which is fine. So we're going to treat this like a tractor beam task, only because you are a special vessel, it doesn't have to be at close range. So let's see. All right, so Rez, you are rolling a control and a security, and the ship will assist you with a structure security. The difficulty is 2. Tell you what, though, I do have threat. You've already rolled. That's okay.
Yeah, I genuinely don't think I have any focuses here. God damn it.
All right, but 3 successes means that you do indeed not only fling the vessel as these bio-grappling hooks shoot out from the Troust from its forward arrays and latch onto the Krirshi vessel, and then the ship does a graceful sort of twirl in space and launches the Krirshi vessel at the Borg Tauruses. And I would say that is your turn, Rez.
Yeah.
And that got us 1 extra momentum, right?
Yes, you are at cap.
Nice.
Trust, that was beautiful. I want you to know you're doing a great job.
Well, I'm just doing what you tell me. But before the Borg go again, I am going to roll for the Krirshi. I honestly didn't expect they would be involved in combat, but I'm glad I wrote down their stats all the same. So let's see. They are rolling this versus this. Let's see how they do. Well, they succeed, but there's a complication, which I think is pretty apt. So you see on one portion of the view screen, the Krirshi vessel deploys literal railguns from either side of its vessel, or of its bow, I should say. And the railguns spool up in a glowing light and launch a, I guess, comparatively slow projectile compared to, say, a phaser or a torpedo. But what you do notice is that one of this railgun projectile, this probably tungsten rod that gets launched out towards a Taurus, it tears through the Taurus completely, and it leaves the Taurus more or less inert for the moment. So it is out of combat, but there is a complication, and what the complication is that as well as the railgun shot was, you notice that the Krirshi vessel is now experiencing total systems failure, as in no life support, no weapons, no engines, nothing. They have gone completely dark. And if that wasn't bad enough, the Borg get to act. And the Borg sphere is going to, once again, attack the Troust, but this time it's going to use its energy dampening weapon. So let's see what happens. I'll give them 1 die with threat. They really don't need it. Wow.
Oof.
All right, so you are going to only take 2 damage to your shield, so not even a breach. However, you are going to suffer quite a lot of power loss here. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 power that you lose as part of this attack.
And then 2 from shields?
And 2 from shields, correct.
Okay.
And at this, the Troust, the lights flicker just a little bit, and the Troust sort of looks up at the ceiling and says, okay, they've switched to a dampening weapon. Fun. But it is now either Tabris's or Rez's turn again. We have entered into a new round.
I can reroute the power.
All right. That sounds good.
All right. So this is going to be either a daring or a control. And this is a difficulty of 2.
I'm going to go daring.
And is there a ship?
Nope, just him, unfortunately.
Feel free to use some momentum if you want. Just tell me how many.
Would computers be a focus here?
No, I don't think computers would, because you're not really using the computer to reroute power.
And I didn't put power systems on here like an idiot. That's cool. All right.
Again, that's why we're doing this, because I want us to get all the kinks out of the way before I throw something really nasty at you.
Wait, I lost it. There it is. All right. Yeah. Engineering, 2d20. What did you say the difficulty was? 3?
Difficulty of 2.
Difficulty 2. Should we throw one more dice at it? We'll spend one momentum.
At least, yeah.
Let's do it.
Done.
No focus. There we go. I'll just get it back for us.
Get it right back. All right. So you recover, instantly you recover 1 power. And now for every momentum you spend, you get another point of power back.
Wow. Should we half it? Just throw another 3 at it?
Yep.
Okay. So you go up to 9 power, and you still have 1 more action there, Rez. So what would you like to do with your second action?
Shall we? What are our shields at? 14 to 21? No, we're fine. Shall I try and repair the effects of the breach? So we had a breach, right, to the structure?
Of course, I think that's a great idea. We should never leave. You know how much I didn't like that scratch? I can only imagine what's going on outside right now.
Yeah. Let's repair the effects of that breach.
Alrighty. So the unique nature of your ship is that every time you do a repair action, you actually repair that breach. Sort of, the Undine bioship regeneration factor here. So this is going to be a presence and engineering. And the difficulty on this is only a 2 because you only have the 1 breach.
Could I use metallurgy focus on this?
I'd give it to you, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so that is 1 success. You do need 2. So what I would say is I will let this succeed at cost, but there will be a complication.
What? Yeah, you know what? Sure. What the heck?
All right, so make sure to note that you're no longer breached on structure, but as you sort of will the ship with your mind, as you sort of will it to repair itself, and the Troust hull begin to knit back together, what happens is there's a bit of feedback, and for a moment there, Rez, you feel the same pain that the ship does. And it's not a debilitating pain, but it is noticeable all the same. It's like if you had a migraine and then you were suddenly introduced to a very bright light, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
So, Rez, you're going to take 4 stress of damage.
Ouch.
But yeah, with that, we're going to go to the Borg. And looking at what I have on the board here, I'm thinking that the Borg aren't going to really go for the Krirshi because they're dead in the water. But you're kind of just sort of right there.
We are kind of right there.
Yeah, I think the Borg are just going to do what the Borg do best, is they're just going to continue pounding you with their dampening weapon until you stop moving or blow them up. So let's see what happens. I'm not going to give them extra die this time. Don't need it. So let's see. That's 11 damage, reduced by 6. So you're going to take 5 damage to your shields. We'll do that breach in a moment. And you're going to lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 power. All right, so what gets breached here? Structure again. Well, it's a good thing you repaired it, because had you not repaired that, that would have mean you were damaged. So that's a good thing. All right. Oh, dear. So that means someone here is getting injured. I'm going to roll a D2. Who wants heads?
Heads.
All right, 1 is heads.
Oh!
All right, so this is very interesting. So as the Borg sphere lances out again, it impacts the forward section of the Troust. And what happens is, much like how Rez just felt that sort of feedback, Tabris, you are now experiencing the same sort of thing, but it is so great that you actually are taking an injury. Now, normally when you get an injury in Star Trek Adventures, you are out of the scene, but you have more than 2 momentum right now. So you could, by spending 2 momentum, you could remain in the fight if you so wish to.
Look at that.
Oh, for sure.
Already spent.
All right. So describe for me a little bit about how Tabris deals with this pain and, sort of keeps themselves together.
So Tabris gets this large burn up the right side of his body. He bites down, but reaches into, just like pops open his lunchbox and pulls out basically the equivalent of a hypo spray for his race and hits himself with it. And then he's like, oh, yeah!
I love it. And then, Tabris, it is your turn to act.
All right, so I went and took Deadeye Marksman.
Okay.
So what does it take to do the aim minor action?
As far as I know, you just declare that you're doing the aim.
Okay, so he's going to be aiming the cannons.
Mm-hmm.
He is then going to spend the 1 momentum we have for an extra die.
Mm-hmm.
And he is going to fire at the ship with the cannons.
Alrighty. Let's see how you do. Control security, ship assisting with weapons security. Interesting. A complication on the field.
Now that was me, but not the ship.
Weapons security for the ship?
Yep.
Sorry, I was...
Nice.
All right. I'm gonna take 2 threat for that complication. But
Okay.
with 5 successes, you get 3 momentum. So what sort of effects do you want this time?
Let's go ahead and so I can spend threat.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
So I'm
4 threat him.
I'm gonna give you 2 threat.
Okay.
To get the +1s.
All right. So do you want vicious 2 or piercing 2?
Piercing 2.
Piercing 2. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then I can use momentum to get what kind of effects?
No, it's threat the whole time, right?
Yeah,
so
it's threat the whole time.
Threat 2 threat to add vicious above 1, and it's +1 every. And it would double, right? So if he went 2 more threat to piercing, it would be +4, right?
Correct.
Vicious 4.
Oh yeah, you get 4 threat then.
Okay.
So vicious 1, piercing 4.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, roll me them 9 challenge die. Let's see how badly you blow them up. All right. Do you want to re-roll those?
And
zeros?
I'm going to re-roll the 3 zeros with
Excellent.
that little guy right there.
Oh, that's glorious.
And that is sufficient that your cannons tear the Borg a new one. So, Tabris, how badly do you turn the Borg into Swiss cheese?
So after, so the cannon is firing through, and Tabris is behind there, like yelling as he's pushing the buttons, and the whole thing just explodes into this basically like stardust, and he turns around with his second action, and he's ready to fire the photon torpedoes at the remaining Borg vessels.
Good news, bad news. Good news, you're not in combat anymore. Bad news, you don't actually have torpedoes on your ship.
The array. I'm sorry.
Well, the good news, as I said, is that the Tauruses aren't moving in an aggressive pattern. They're still just sort of working on the conduit, almost ignoring you at the moment.
Oh yeah. I turned toward Rez. We need to get the people. We need to help the people, but we also need to stop the Borg.
I mean, we should be able to bring our ship within range. To do both, can't we?
Yeah. There's no reason we can't.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So tell me order of operations here. Are you blowing up the Tauruses, or are you helping the Krirshi first?
What is the status of the Krirshi ship?
Still dark.
So can we do a sensor sweep to find out, like, are they, is it just their life support systems are down, or are they like cataclysmic failures where they're in imminent danger of exploding?
Right. Let's do a reason and a security, or reason and science. I could give you reason science. And the trials will assist you with a sensors and security.
Okay. I got the sensor security for you.
Cool. Does an espionage focus help me here? Or infiltration?
Either. I could see arguments for either.
Excellent, because I only got one success.
All right.
But the ship back me up!
It was only a difficulty of 1, so you get 2 momentum.
Nice.
And you know how you said cataclysmic failure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Do we have facilities to beam them aboard?
You do. There are only, actually, compared to your vessel, it's about the same size. But probably, and this is going to make sense, you know how they were raptor-like earlier? There's not like 100 or 200 people on their vessel. There's like 20. So you could conceivably fit all 20 on your ship. It would just be a little packed.
All right, and I presume that they aren't going to have communications up, so I don't even bother sending them a hail saying that we're going to do this. We just let's start beaming them aboard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so we'll get to that in a moment. So you beam them aboard. What do you do about the Borg? Do you leave them be? Do you shoot them?
Oh, he's just going to spread the array fire across all 4 of the things and the array.
Okay.
And the conduit that's going up.
All right. So beams of orange light lance out from the trouse and sort of spread across in a web-like fashion, impacting all the Tauruses and taking out half of the conduit. But you are able to take out all the construction ships. So as half of the conduit breaks away and begins exploding and decompressing, you've definitely bought yourself some time. And I tell you what, we've been going for an hour, so let's take our 10-minute break there. And we'll be back in 10-minute stream. Stick around. All right, I know we're back 5 minutes early, but we were ready and we're eager to play, so we're gonna keep playing. So, what has changed during the break is that I have had the players go ahead and basically put the 20 Krirshi where they want on their vessel. And as I sort of do a slow pan here, you can see that they filled up the guest quarters, the holo suites, the hallways, the med bays, the cargo bay. They're pretty, there's a lot of raptors running around this ship right now. But one of them, a pink-hued raptor, meaning that their bioluminescence is pink, not that they are pink themselves. They have identified themselves as, well, they use the term ambassador, but you get the sense they mean captain. They are Captain or Ambassador Chas. And,
well, Chas, I'm
go ahead.
I'm Captain Rez, and this is Captain Tabris, and this is Troust, the ship's avatar.
And
as he turns over to look, it's like, and the Polaroid comes out.
Nice. So Chas sort of looks between you two and says, "You have a very distinct smell. This one does not, though." And, kind of points a claw at Troust, quote unquote.
Yes, they're the ship's avatar. They're a synthetic being. Whereas
A
we are
synthetic being? That is interesting. We do not have those from where we are from.
I mean, you don't look like you'd be the types who'd need them.
And they just sort of look around again and they say, "Is this ship organic?"
Yep.
That is interesting. We use metal for our ships.
I mean, there's some metal in here, some iron and stuff. But it's much easier to heal damage to a bioship than to a metal ship, if you will.
I see. Well, we are very grateful that you came to rescue us. Those things came out of nowhere and began attacking us.
Ah, was this your first encounter with the Borg then?
If that is what they are called, then yes.
That is what they're called. I'm surprised they didn't play their best of their hits album. It goes something like this:
tilt their head to the side, like totally lost.
We are the Borg. We will add your distinctiveness to our own. Prepare to be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
They did
it's like a whole
transmit
thing.
a message, but it did not translate. No.
Oh, well, don't worry. You weren't missing much. It was just that, really.
Yeah, they tend to have really one-sided conversations. They really don't let you get a word in at all. It's really annoying. I don't understand how anybody could really communicate with them, because it's like they don't even pause to give you any sort of chance to say anything that you want to say, and they just try to get their own message across. It's really annoying. I don't understand how anybody can communicate with the Borg.
And Chas just sort of looks at you, Tabris, and then looks back at Rez, and then looks back at Tabris and goes, I see. Well, again, you have my thanks for rescuing me and my crew. And yes, I'm aware their accent is all over the place. I apologize.
Can we take you back to your planet? Is there a specific area we can take you back to?
There is a city, yes. The main city, in fact, Fortuna.
Right. What we'll do is hey, Trust, can you pull up a scan of the planet, and we'll get them to point out where they need to go?
And the avatar of Trials just sort of snaps their fingers, and the view screen turns into a projection of the planet. And after a little bit of scanning, a little bit of back and forth with Chas, what happens is the image of the planet zooms in, and you see these dense, luscious jungles made not out of green, but out of purple and of blacks and of blues. And it zooms in on what you thought was just a big grouping of just trees and other sorts of natural structures. But as you look at it a little bit more, you see that there's actually order here, like actual architecture. They have just sort of built it in such a way that it is easily camouflaged from orbit.
Huh. Trust, set a course, and let's get into orbit so we can.
Yeah, let's start out getting all these people back home.
And
actually,
go ahead.
Did their ship explode? Did it blow up?
No, it's just inert, just sort of floating there, dead in the water.
Let's grab it.
Let's tow it over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we sort of go to an external shot where the biograppler cables come out again and latch on to the Krirshi vessel, and the two vessels begin steaming towards the purple planet. And as this is all happening, Ambassador Chas just sort of looks at between the two of you and says, "So, what are these Borg like? Are they going to come back, or?"
Yeah, no, they're definitely going to come back. Their whole goal is to add your biological distinctiveness to their own. Apparently it sucks. It's not fun. And they're like a tenacious dog. Once they get their teeth into you, then that's pretty much the end of it. Don't worry, we have some tricks we'll teach you about how to deal with the Borg.
Oh, for sure.
See. And yeah, they just sort of look between the two of you, not really sure what to make of you at this point, but you're helping them, so they're just trying to be polite in their own way.
Once we drop you guys off, we'd like to make contact with your government, I think, because this is sort of the first time our respective races are meeting. Is there someone you can introduce us to, or some way we can be put in contact with your government?
And interestingly, they're sort of same sort of how raptors work is they have one claw that sort of stands up above the others, and they have control of it, so it clicks against the deck plating. And they say, "Yes, in fact, there is someone for this. At least I think there is. You are the first aliens we have, well, second aliens we have encountered. I guess the Borg would be the first.
Well, I'm happy your second encounter was able to be much better than your first encounter. First encounter ever with an alien species, and it happened to be the Borg. Oh man, that must just suck.
That is some bad luck.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many other races that you could have encountered first. I mean, even meeting the Ferengi would have been better than meeting the Borg first.
They sort of tilt their head to the side. Ferengi?
Yeah.
Imagine someone who looks like me, but with mostly ears instead of mostly cheeks.
Curious. How many species are out here?
How many stars do you see?
Quite a lot.
Okay, like about half that, I think.
Are they all like the Borg?
Oh, no, the Borg are pretty unique, actually. Most other species will at least say hello before they try and eat you.
I see.
Although for you guys, I don't think the eating thing is going to be a real problem.
Well, and also, it's not very common that another race wants to eat you. I just want to make that clear. We're saying hello. We're not saying hello before we eat you. We're saying hello before we get to talk with you and learn more about you.
Oh, yeah, it never even occurred to me that you might think we want to eat you. You'd be like that. There's a lot of you, and I don't need that much protein.
Thank you, I think.
I mean, I try and make a habit of not eating intelligent races either. So once we've had a conversation, then you're pretty safe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's at this point that Trouse clears their throat and says, gentlemen, we're in orbit. I have support craft moving towards the Krirshi vessel. Should I let them have it?
Absolutely. Let's check those biocables.
Alrighty. And you hear a very, very faint sort of thunk that symbolizes that the biograpplers have retracted. And Chas just sort of, again, cocks their head to the side and says, so, I meant to ask, how did we end up here? We simply appeared on your vessel.
Oh, so we have this technology, which is a matter converter energy beam, which essentially we convert your corporeal form into an energy pattern. We move it to where it needs to be, and then we reassemble it. It's pretty complicated. We can show you how it works if you want, I guess.
Yes, yes, sure. A demonstration would be good. You there! And they point at one of the other Krirshi. You will help these individuals with their test or operation, whatever it is they want. And the Krirshi does kind of a weird sort of salute with its raptor arms and sort of steps forward to do whatever it is you would like them to do.
What do you think, Tabris? Let's beam them across the bridge from one end to the other. That sounds reasonable. Great. All right, yeah. Troust, would you be so kind?
And they snap their fingers, and I need somebody to roll me a control engineering, assisted by the ship's sensors engineering. And because I find it funny, I'm going to spend some threat and make it a difficulty of 4.
Well, I have transporters and replicators as a focus. Also, I'd like to spend a momentum to get a third dice, please.
Okay.
Last thing we need is a complication.
This would be the wrong time, for sure.
I'll roll for the ship.
We're fine.
Wow. That is 5 successes, which means you get that momentum right back. And yeah, sure enough, the raptor or the Krirshi dematerializes, and Chas sort of goes over and pokes the space where they once were. And then behind Chas, they begin to rematerialize, and he sort of jumps a little bit and, swishes his tail, and the frills behind his head sort of fan out. And the Krirshi rematerializes and says, Did I miss it? No, you went from here to here. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty much, that's the transporter.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get another chance to experience it when we transport you back down to the planet.
Yes, I will need time to talk to, I guess it would be the planetary governor.
Yeah, no, we'll remain in orbit. Trust, can you make sure that we have our hailing frequencies sort of open so that they can reach us as soon as they would like to?
Yeah, I'm currently monitoring all their comms. If they so much as speak about us, we'll know.
Excellent.
Rez, I have to go to the med bay. He points to his burnt side.
Oh yeah. Oh, that is. I mean, yeah. Once we get all our guests sort of situated, I'll join you there because I took a little bit of a hit to the head actually. So
yeah,
once we're
I can help with that. Oh God, the hallway is full. He calls back to the bridge.
right, Trust, can we start moving some of these people down to the planet, please?
Right away. And yeah, so one by one, the Krirshi begin to dematerialize and more or less get rid of all the clutter. And eventually, there is just the ambassador remaining. And they, of course, asked to be the last one to go.
Mhm.
And once they are the last one, they simply say, I don't think there's an adequate word to express how grateful we are about all this.
Oh, it was our pleasure. We're looking to make friends out here, so we're happy to have met somebody who needs a friend. And it was genuinely our pleasure. We're very pleased to have been of help. Besides, we have a long-standing sort of disagreement with the Borg about their whole deal, actually. So we were happy to show the Borg that this isn't the system they're welcome.
Well, I will make sure the planetary governor knows all of this. And
Rez
then
will stick out his hand to shake, and then realize that that's not sort of a gesture that these people will appreciate. And he's like, "Sorry, it's an old habit."
No. Show me what it is you wish us to do.
So he sticks his hand out and he says, "Hey, put your one of your claws in my hand here."
And
then we'll shake. And then I just raise it up and down a couple times.
That is an interesting culture.
It's a gesture of friendship.
Interesting. Well, I am ready to go. How do I? And then literally as they're mid-sentence, they beam away. And Trouse says, oh, Lord, I'm going to have to clean my internals.
Oof. I don't envy you that. I'll be in the med bay. Let me know if there's something I can help you with.
And yeah, we go over to the med bay where Tabris, you are doing something with a hypospray, I'm imagining.
Probably, yes. So he's just going to try to address his own wound and then address Rez's.
Okay. I mean, since we're not on a time crunch here, I think it's very trivial for you to just sort of heal naturally. Because even, as a default Undine, you heal pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, we've got fast recovery something.
And plus we're at max momentum anyway, so there's no reason to even roll for it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Fast recovery too.
Mm-hmm. Which means technically you would heal, if I remember fast recovery correctly, it's something like 1 momentum for 2 stress. So if you were in combat, we'd actually track that. But since you're out of combat, nah.
Awesome.
Those things were pretty amazing. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like those in any of. Well, there is a species on Earth, but it's an extinct species. It was called Velociraptor, and they seem very similar to those.
I am constantly amazed, Tabris, at your Earth knowledge. Yeah, I've never seen anything like them either. I'd be very interested to see. To get a scan of their brains, because
in the 20th Earth century, there were scientists who created something called the Jurassic Park, and they had created a whole bunch of these. It was pretty interesting.
Were they created like a synthetic species, or?
Oh no, they were
because you said they went extinct. Oh,
no, they were cloned from old DNA sealed in amber.
That is not a very efficient way to seal DNA away. These humans do not sound like they're particularly scientifically knowledgeable. Why? How do they even make it out here?
Well, from most of what I've read, there's a lot of dumb luck involved.
Oh, all right. That matches what I've heard about humans too, actually.
Mhm. All right. So we skip ahead just a little bit. And it's been, at least in human terms, it's been maybe about 8 hours. And Troust hasn't really said that you have been contacted or referenced yet. So you kind of are left to your own devices at the moment. And I'm just curious, what does downtime look for each of you as you are literally just sort of hurry up and waiting?
I mean, if we're in orbit around a planet, like there aren't very many of these. I haven't seen a lot of actual planets before,
Mhm.
so I'd like a detailed scan. And I'm going to go over like, oh look at it. It does like a core, and I think it's molten. What the hell?
And Tabris has been taking lots of scans of the planet, and he's basically doing the equivalent of a 3D walkthrough for a house for sale.
Mhm.
You know, and he's like clicking and making it look like he's walking around the forest.
Very nice. And, some more time passes. Of course, you do the explorer thing of just sort of amazement that there's something besides just fluid outside. And right as you're beginning to really sort of get down to the nitty gritty of things, like I'm sure as explorers, you still would be happy to know that their atmosphere is X oxygen, Y nitrogen. It gets to that point where you're sort of running out of new and interesting things. But it is at
Tabris?
that point that Troust says, "Oh, I think they're trying to hail us."
Oh, well, open the channel.
And appearing on the view screen behind them is a yellow-hued Krirshi. So you've seen pink, you've seen blue, you've seen now yellow or gold. And this one does sort of a fan gesture where they take their two claws, they put them together, and then in a half circle motion, sort of move them out to either side, then bring them back underneath till they touch once more. And they say, "Hello, I am Planetary Governor Vern. On behalf of my people, I must say, your presence is most welcome and will always be welcome as our first friendly extraterrestrial visitors."
Wow. Hear that with we're very honored and pleased to have been able to put the good taste of the galaxy back in your mouth after the Borg so viciously removed it. My name is Captain Rez, and this is co-captain Tabris, and we are um, representatives of the Groundskeepers, a faction of the Undine. We're actually from Fluidic Space, so it's a real pleasure to meet you.
And they again do that sort of quizzical look to the side. Fluidic space? What is this?
So you know how the universe exists here. For you, it's like a bunch of chunks of rock floating in the middle of nothing, and with some balls of fire that the rock sort of floats around. Well, imagine that if instead of chunks of rock, balls of fire, and empty space, there was just fluid. And that's where we're from. Like
Strange.
a whole universe just like that.
Strange that such a thing could exist, but today has been a very strange day.
I don't understand how anything floats out here. There's nothing to support it. Whereas in the fluid, at least. Sorry, we're getting off track. I bring you formal greetings from the Groundskeeper faction. We'd like to come down and maybe establish some sort of formal. What do I want here? Some sort of formal diplomatic relation. Maybe we can give you some contact information for our government, or you can give us some contact information for yours. We do the whole trading numbers, and we call each other later. Also, those Borg are bound to be back, so we might want to give you some instructions on how to build a couple of more robust defenses for your planet.
That would be very much needed, and of course, we would be very much happy to receive your gifts.
And of course, we have some questions about you as a people. So we would be very interested to learn as much as we can.
Well, I have, and they do pause and almost think over their words for a moment and eventually sort of shake their head and says, "My apologies. I was remiss in mentioning this earlier. There are those among my people that believe that you are gods?"
Oh no, that's silly. We're not gods, right, Tabris?
Well, there is an old Earth reference that says if anybody asks you if you're a god, say yes.
I feel like that's. I mean, I'll tell you what. Kern, can we get back to you? We'll just have a private conversation real quick, and then we'll call you back.
And they nod, and Trouse does an actual motion with their hands, and you can tell that the channel has been muted.
Tabris, how do we feel about? I mean,
I think it's best that we just come across as just, an advanced civilization that's willing to help them out.
right. But here's the thing: how do we do that without like if they've already decided we're gods? How do we prove we're not gods? I feel like it's gonna be a challenge.
Well, proving we're not gods is going to be very difficult because the best way to prove that you're not a god is to die.
Yeah. See, I was thinking the same thing, and I'm not game on that.
And I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I guess what we could do is just explain to them how some of our technology works. I mean, maybe we don't give them transporters, and I mean, we should set them up some defenses, but maybe we don't give them the designs of the weapons. Maybe we just like install them for them. Oof, this is getting more complicated than I expected.
Well, setting up some satellite defenses with some anti-proton weapons could be good. It might be beneficial to look through their current technical specifications and see if they're capable of backward engineering.
I was gonna say maybe we give them a bump. Like we don't give them what we have now, but maybe we upgrade them a little. I would hate to see them lost to the Borg.
Oh yeah, I mean I agree. I mean we can't lose the very first people we've ever met.
Right? All right. So we're agreed. We'll arrange to put in some orbital defenses, but also we won't. We'll try and give them some sort of understanding of who we are and what we're doing. That isn't so much. Look at this cool stuff we can do. All right. Trust, you wanna unmute, please?
Sure, but before we do that, I would like either one of you to roll me an insight engineering difficulty of 2, just to see what you can glean of their technology at this point.
That's all you, my friend.
Infiltration as a focus?
I'd say it would apply here, yeah.
And you said difficulty 2. Shall I spend a momentum just to get that third dice?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Because you're going to get it right back for us. So.
Of course, you say that.
That seems likely. On the other hand, now that you've said it, we're in some real trouble. Oh no!
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That is 5 successes, which means you are capped the momentum and you have 2 floating. So, wait, you're science officer too, aren't you, technically?
I am, yes.
So you not only have a free question, but you also have 2 floating momentum you could spend on additional questions.
All right, so my first question is, would the Troust be capable of producing the type of like satellite defenses that if we got raw materials from the planet, could we, in theory, put up a reasonable satellite defense?
I would say that it would be like giving a caveman access to a firearm. Like they might be able to eventually figure out that, yeah, you pull the trigger, boomstick kind of a thing. But the Troust, as technology is concerned, let me ask this: Have either of you seen The Expanse or have read the books?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
I've seen some of it.
So to sort of describe what I mean by this, they don't really have warp travel quite yet. They have the ability to travel in space, like they obviously have starships.
Right.
But they don't actually have warp capable ships yet. And all of their ships rely on constant thrust for their sort of gravity. So they haven't even developed grav plating yet. And grav plating, sort of being a little bit of a nerd here, at least on my end. Grav plating is one of those things where it's sort of a step towards warp drive, because once you have grav plating, it's easier to get things into orbit. It's easier to sort of lay out a ship, etc., etc. So that's your first question. That one's free.
So technologically wise, they're below warp capable.
They are probably about 100, 200 years off.
Oof. But they've run into the Borg. Now I feel like we're in a moral quandary. Like we should by the Prime Directive, we in theory shouldn't give them. All right, John, can you think of anything else we should ask?
I mean, yeah, not so much anything that we should ask, but I think if we created a satellite defense network that maybe the all right, so
we give it a mini Troust.
Does the Undine
AI?
Does the Undine have any sort of cloaking technology?
Cloaking technology, no. I mean, that wasn't ever something that the Undine felt they needed. But you do bring up a good point. You could bring in Undine defenses instead of making them on the planet. It would just involve opening up some quantum singularities and bringing them in that way.
Yeah, I'm thinking we could give them some automated defenses.
So I feel like we're stuck in this. I agree with you. We should give them some automated defenses. But now we're stuck in this weird moral gray space where we want to protect them from the Borg, but also we don't want to impact their development theoretically. Or do we care? Do we want to just be like, here, we're going to incrementally help you with this? But the thing is that makes them beholden to us, and I don't know that we want to establish an empire out here. I think we're just looking to make friends, right?
And in making friends, I think in the interest of making friends, I think we have the orbital automated defense platform that we set up. That we almost make it like a puzzle box to get into, so that if they ever did reach them and try to get into them, they'd have to figure out how to get it open to try to find the technology Easter eggs held within.
I was going to say, what if we made it so that it essentially had a system that detected warp signatures?
Yeah. And then it would open up if they had warp capability.
Well, I mean, you want it to be careful. So you want it to send a message, but we'll have it send the message in in a band that we've told them about. Yeah, I guess we could set it up so that the system would recognize one of their ships moving at warp, and then they might, it would open up and give them the refinement of that technology immediately.
And I think to ELH's point, to give them a leg up, so to speak, why don't we give them the rudimentaries of grav plating?
What if how about instead we tell them about grav plating, and then we let them figure it out? Like, hey, there's a field. It's an anti-grav field. If you could figure it out, that's how we get our ships up into space more easily.
And give them 70% of the equation, and they have to figure out the rest of it.
If I may interject, someone in chat has brought up a very interesting point that I think is worth raising. So, the Borg, if they were ever to come back, it's one of those things where even with your orbital defenses, they might still be able to beam away Krirshi. And what this person has raised is the question of, could you sort of manipulate their genetics in a way that would help them fight against the simulation the same way that the Undine do? That is within your power.
That's a fairly long-term solution. I guess we could ask them if that would save them from Borg interference, but let them develop at their own pace.
But it would involve basically a mass, global sort of inoculation or transformation?
Oh yeah, I mean we'd probably introduce it we'd introduce a harmless virus,
And then at that
would
point, we do become gods.
Yeah.
a highly infectious, non-harmful virus that just makes or a nanovirus that makes tailored changes to their DNA and introduces the highly evolved immune system that we know and love from our own selves.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted
And
to
then
put that as
once they found out that they couldn't assimilate them, they would just leave them be.
Yeah. Wow.
I like this idea.
It does sound like a good idea. Travis, what's the time frame on creating a tailored nanovirus?
Well, that would depend on Mr. Tabris here. I believe they are the medical expert.
I do have parasitology.
So Tabris, why don't you roll me an insight medicine difficulty of, let's say, a 4. I think a 4 would be here. But the Troust will assist you.
Oh, well, I'll do that
the Troust will assist you with a computers and medicine.
And we're going to say goodbye to 3 momentum.
All right.
Nice.
All right, there's helping. 1 assist from the ship.
Can I assist from a science background?
If you tell me how.
So I was thinking that if I can give him a sort of vector for how raptor biology would react to viral infection, to avoid complications where, like we end up with changes that we didn't intend.
Mm-hmm.
So that, because you're rolling to find out if you can do it, right?
Mm-hmm. And he's already got the 4 successes he needs.
Well then, I am unnecessary.
I mean, you could still do it for the momentum.
You could still roll for momentum.
That's right.
Or complication for that matter.
Yeah, I just think considering the detailed scans I took, I should in theory be able to look at what changes and what they would mean, and like just see how that pool, that ripple effect would spread out, and trying to avoid some of the greater harms we might do with such a course of action.
Yeah, how we could potentially mutate an existing virus on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Why don't we have Rez roll me an insight science, but again, since you're assisting, just the 1 die.
Yep.
And you would have a focus here.
Yay!
All right, so that is a total of 5 successes, which means you get a momentum back. So, sort of to spitball off of this idea that you're proposing, it would be not exactly trivial, but also not exactly difficult for the Undine to create such a virus, to create such a retrovirus. Really, the key deciding factor is how much of the planet's wildlife you want to risk also mutating in the process.
We'll need to know more about the whole planet, I think, before we can make such a decision.
Yeah, and you're going to have to also sell the idea to their leadership.
I mean, I don't think that'll be difficult, right? I mean, if I told you that I could give you a vaccine for the Borg, I feel like that's pretty good.
I still think you need to sell it though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're not going to do this without their permission. All right. Should we bring him back on now?
Of course.
Now that we've had this conversation, all right. Let's bring Kern back on.
All right. So Troust sort of waves her hand, and Planetary Governor reappears.
All right, Mr. Kern. I think we have what we think is a pretty reasonable way to keep you from being attacked by the Borg in future. They'll still come back probably, but you will actually just essentially we'll just make you immune to them in a similar fashion to the way that we are, and we'll give you some more details. If we could be allowed to beam down, maybe we could meet in person and explain our plan.
That would be acceptable, yes. Do I need to give you coordinates, or?
I think what we'll do is we'll beam down somewhere outside of the city so that it's not too apparent how we arrive. That way, we'll try and reduce the amount of speculation about our godliness. Because I'd like to keep that to a minimum, if that's all right with you.
I agree. It is a little worrying that there are those that are trying to bring faith into a matter of science, but I'm sure there are many cultures that have faced the same.
Oh, there
Indeed.
are. You should just the old Earth history is filled with this type of thing.
Hey, Tabris, we can tell him in person, all right, bud? All right.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Kern, we'll see you shortly.
All right. So we're gonna skip ahead to you all on Krirshi Prime. And when you beam in, again, the forest around you is filled with a low-hanging mist, a low-hanging fog that sort of leaves droplets of water, what you're assuming is water, on all of the blue and purple plant life that is also bioluminescent in a similar manner to the Krirshi. But when you first beam in, you think you're just in the middle of a forest. Or a jungle, as it were.
I pull out the Undine equivalent of a tricorder, and I get a scan to give us some direction.
All right. So you give a scan, and you realize that you're almost actually right on top of the city. You sort of go that way, and you walk for maybe 5-10 minutes, and sure enough, you find yourselves almost drastically changing between jungle and where the city begins. It's like Central Park in New York, where you kind of have that green area, and the moment you walk outside it, you're in city. Sort of that same delineation. And waiting for you is actually the planetary governor. Now, on the view screen, this wasn't very much communicated, but in person, the planetary governor is very large, almost double the size of the captain you met earlier. So the planetary governor does again that sort of claw, almost half bowing motion, and says, "Welcome to our planet. I'm pleased to meet you in person."
Tabris is going to mimic the circular hand motion as well. It says, "We are honored to be here."
And because I find it funny, Tabris, I'd like you to roll me a control and a con, please. Difficulty of 2. Just to see how well you mimic the motion.
Control, con. I'm gonna make an argument for hand-to-hand combat.
No, but I appreciate the effort.
It's like imitating a kata, All right, it was worth a try. I will spend a momentum, though.
All right.
Nice.
Okay, 2 successes is all you need. So yeah, Tabris, you completely, copy the gesture, and in fact, the planetary governor sort of nods in respect and says, "Thank you for copying the gesture. It normally is not done except to an equal, and I hope that is what we can be to each other, as equals."
Indeed.
Rez is our talker, so I'm going to let Rez do most of the talking when it comes to this stuff. But, I find this place absolutely fascinating. I want to learn more about your customs. And like I said, Raz is the person who talks more. I mean, I don't talk very much. They just don't let me communicate very much with the ruling parties, let's say. I did it again, didn't I, Raz?
You're fine. No, we're good. Mr. Kern, if you'd like to lead us to, or unless you want to converse right here, we're fine with that. But
here is fine. Back at my abode is fine as well. Really, it is your preference.
I'd love to see their houses.
All right. Well, yeah, we'd love to see some more of your city. Your city. So, if you wouldn't mind.
So they turn and gesture actually with their hooked tail for you to follow. And as you sort of fall in, maybe, I don't know, would you go side by side? Would you fall in behind them?
Probably side by side. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to talk to them.
Fair enough. So
Tabris will fall behind.
Okay.
And let Rez and the guy walk first, because Tabris every now and then is snapping a Polaroid.
Gotcha. All right. So As you walk through the city, what you're seeing is almost, I don't want to say organic in terms of like actual material, but organic in feel,
Hmm.
wherein all of the structures that you're seeing, made out of metal, made out of stone, made out of wood, all of it is meant to sort of meld with the environment around it. It's not as, say, invasive as a human would be, putting down a mini mall in the middle of the Amazon kind of a thing. This is more of, to use another sci-fi reference, this is more of an Avatar situation where you
Hmm.
have people living in giant trees, you have people living in underground structures or structures that have been made to resemble trees. It's sort of that nurture versus nature, and they're definitely in the nature side of things. But as you walk, what you notice is that there is not quite a parade audience waiting for you, but the more you walk through the city, the more you realize that there are more Krirshi sort of showing up just to see you.
I try and ignore the people as much as possible and spend
Mhm.
a bunch of time just sort of discussing. I'm trying to get a feel for where they're at specifically technologically. So
Mhm.
like what kinds of things, how are they producing food? How's their culture organized?
Mhm.
Are they unified? Are there a bunch of different nations? What's going on?
Well, the good news is that they are a unified culture. They, of course, have a singular planetary governor who you're speaking with.
Excellent.
In terms of food and things like that, they actually don't have replicators, but they have synthesizers that can manipulate matter, or at least organic matter, to
Hmm.
be, oh, what's the term? Well, what is the reference? Is it Soylent Green as people? I
Hmm.
think is the reference. It's not people for them, but they basically take organic matter, make it into a paste, and live off that. And what I would say is that they still actually do some hunting, some farm, or for what is it, animal husbandry,
Hmm.
but that is meant for more the quote unquote upper class, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
Right. So they still have what do I want? There's still an economy based on acquisition of resources.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting. And then I try and tell them a little bit about where we're from and how it's very liquid and
Yeah. No, I mean
it's
he
very fluid.
listens. He listens very intently, and he maybe asks a few questions here and there. And part of this conversation is you actually arrive at your destination without even knowing it. And what you see before you is a dome structure, maybe about 4 stories tall, made out of a transparent sort of glass or maybe some form of transparent aluminum. That is almost a minicosm of the environment around it, meaning that when you step inside this facility, there is a miniature jungle. And what you realize is that the planetary governor has gone to great lengths to create a miniature version of the jungles of the planet. Why? He doesn't really say. He just says he's very proud of it. But he leads you to the center of it where there is uh, not quite benches, but, sort of rocks that one could rest on. And
Mhm.
he rests on one of these rocks and says, well, what did you think of the tour of the city? Was it what you were expecting?
It was quite lovely. It was beautiful, actually. I quite appreciate how you have made an effort to adapt to your surroundings rather than have your surroundings adapt to you.
So
I
what is this matter you wish to discuss perhaps a little bit more privately? I got the impression anyway.
So the danger of the Borg, which perhaps you do not appreciate as of yet, is that what they will do is assimilate your culture. So they arrive, they force the people into a techno servitude by implanting devices inside your bodies, essentially wiping your minds clean and then forcing you to join their collective. I'm not sure if you're familiar with insects or if you have any kind of experience with a hive mind, but essentially they all become part of a unified collective mind. So they lose their individual uh, their individual personalities, if you will.
So Tabris sets up like a hollow projector and runs a simulation of a Borg assimilating one of their kind.
Okay.
Obviously, we being an enemy of the Borg, take issue with this, take umbrage. We absolutely don't want to see the genetic distinctiveness of the Krirshi added to the Borg. Not for the least reason that we think your civilization is one worth preserving. So, however, we have made some efforts in this instance to pay homage to a previous civilization, or to not a previous civilization, but to another civilization, which has put some thought into what they should do when they meet races that aren't as technologically advanced. They have given it much thought, and their conclusion they have reached is that it often turns out poorly for the civilization that is given technology beyond their reach. So while we don't want to leave you defenseless against the Borg, we also don't want to ruin what is a lovely and quite prosperous civilization by giving you technology that is beyond your current level. However, the reason that we are such an enemy of the Borg and have sort of the luxury of opposing them as vociferously as we do is that we actually have natural immunity to their attacks. So when they attempt to assimilate us, their nanotechnology is fought off in a similar way to a sickness would be fought off by you. And so what we propose is that we could introduce a genetic change to your race that would essentially just give you that ability, which would mean that when the Borg showed up, you could essentially just ignore them, because once they discover that you are unable to join their collective, they'll lose interest.
So while he's explaining that, there is a very Fallout type video from the video game showing the inoculation and then the Borg coming along and trying to assimilate, and then it not working and the Borg just leaving.
If momentum wasn't needed, I would give you momentum, but we're almost at the end of the session. So, the governor, takes all this in and says, I see. Well, it will be a bit of a work to convince people that it is not a god's work in changing our biology, but I believe I'm up to the task. I just have a singular question. What about the debris in orbit? I understand that there is remnants of the Borg technology up there. Will you be taking that with you, or are we free to study it?
Borg technology has a tendency to operate beyond what one would expect. And so I would be hesitant to leave it in orbit for you to study. However, what we want to do to sort of establish a friendly relationship with you is sort of give you a nudge. So we were thinking we might provide you with a little bit of the information as to how to produce something we call an anti-grav field. And what it should do is reduce the energy demands for getting your ships into space. Now we won't provide you with the technology, but maybe we could speak to a couple of your leading scientists and give them a couple of helpful hints so that they can start sort of studying in the correct direction. But we will go up and take that Borg technology. If we don't destroy it, we'll get it out of here.
The Borg technology itself tends to be malevolent,
invasive
in itself, and it carries its own intelligence.
I see. Then I only have one further question. What do you get out of all this?
Well, as we explained, we're from a race that doesn't even originate in this universe, and we're looking for friends. So Essentially, well, we would just ask that if Undine ships arrive, that you remain friendly to them the same way you were friendly with us, and they will pay you the same courtesy. We'll just report back to our superiors that this planet is a friendly planet. It engenders no debt on your part or on ours, but on the other hand, it could be mutually beneficial.
Well, it seems a good thing that I wore my best garments today. And, there's probably an error in translation there, but you get the general gist of what he means. As we sort of actually pull the camera back up out of the dome, and then we see the forest of the planet, and then we go to the Troust in orbit, just slowly going around in orbit. And that's where we're going to end the session. So, I mean, what did you guys think? Did you enjoy the first sort of foray into the Undine? Was there anything I could have done better? Give me your thoughts here.
No, I think this was great.
I
very much enjoyed this.
Yeah, it was also really unique just having two players.
Mm-hmm.
It really did allow us. I think there was so much growth in just the first game between the two characters.
Mm-hmm.
It was really interesting to see that much growth that quickly, and it's cool to hear what Gray Matter is saying in chat as well. So, thanks for watching us, Gray Matter.
Yeah, thanks, Gray Matter. You actually had a really good suggestion there. I'm glad you brought it up. But yeah, I think the only thing we need to do before I stop the stream is I do want us to at least try and parse through the new reputation rules.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go through it step by step, and I'll put it up on the stream best I can. Let's see if that shows up. Kind of shows up. All right, so the way this works is basically we have to decide, or not really decide, but we have to determine, have you used your values positively? Have you used them negatively, et cetera, et cetera. So first step, we'll go step by step here. So your target number. So your target number for this roll is equal to 7 plus your reputation. You guys are just starting out, so your reputation is currently 3. So that means that your target number is 10. So next step is we have to set the difficulty of the roll equal to the number of negative influences that you had. Do you guys feel like you have any negatives? Because I don't feel like there was any negatives.
With the Borg, yes.
Well, I mean, obviously the Borg,
yeah.
but those weren't your negatives.
Yeah. No, I would say there were no negatives.
Yeah, I think we did pretty good.
Okay, so then the difficulty would be a 0. So what you would do next is you would roll a number of d20s equal to the number of positive influences that you have. And there is no maximum on how many d20s you can roll here. So let's actually go through the list of positive influences, and we'll see how many dice we get. So, was your mission, quote-unquote, victorious? I say it would be, so that's 1.
Yes.
Did you positively use one or more of the adventure's dictates, i.e. make friends? Yes. 2.
Okay.
Did you obey the orders given to you by your superiors? Yes. 3. Did you condemn the dishonorable acts of others? You did.
We did. We told the
Mm-hmm.
Krirshi that the Borg were awful.
All right, that's 4. Did you kill any enemy warriors? Yeah. 5.
Yeah.
Did you declare yourself so that your enemies knew who they, or if that's a Klingon thing, we'll just ignore that one.
We did not do that.
Yeah. If you were injured or slain, did you do so in battle? Again, that's a Klingon one, not important. So that's 5d20 for each of you.
Nice.
And what's the difficulty?
Difficulty of 0. So these are all successes.
Okay. Well, that was easy.
Yay.
All right. So let's see. So I see 1 success for Rez and 2 successes for because I'm assuming that is Tabris.
It would be
there.
Tabris, yeah.
Okay. So what that means is that if the number of successes you score, blah 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 blah. So Tabris gains 2 points of glory. Rez, you get 1. And now we have to determine what you spend that glory on, which is kind of a little bit interesting. But again, we're going step by step here. So, in terms of glory, you can either basically gain the respect or the attention of someone above you. You could increase your reputation score. It is 1-to-1, so 1 glory is... Oh, no, actually, it is equal to the reputation you are increasing. So you could... I actually don't think you could upgrade your reputation here. I think you would...
No.
Yeah, you only have a max of 2. So... Commending another doesn't really apply here. Awards we could potentially do, but I think there's all of 1 reputation or cost 2 roll medal. Let me see. Elevation, promotion. Let's do this, because we are doing an 8472 versions of events. If you guys want to combine your pool, what I would say is you will be given an increase in your Undine reputation. And that, of course, will mean that you have easier rolls with other Undine. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. So I will make a note of that in my own notes. And yeah, I think that's where we will actually call the session for real this time. So Twitch, YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys had fun. I totally forgot to hit the red alert button earlier. Maybe that'll show up next session. Who knows? But the goal is that after next week, we will be a weekly series. And the reason we're skipping next week is because that's virtual Gen Con. And I know I myself have an event. And, I don't want to, take my players away from virtual Gen Con either. So the next time you will see these lovely individuals will be the 9th. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and see you later, stream.